Hello everybody, this is Dragonzilla 1991 here, and although not as iconic as the King of the Monsters, but still a kaiju who is just as world famous, today, the 27th of November, is the 60th anniversary to the Guardian of the Universe, aka / friend of all children, the giant flying fire-breathing turtle himself, Gamera, and this review is dedicated to him. So who exactly is Gamera? Well, to all those who don't know, he's a giant turtle kaiju which was made to compete with his rival, who was none other than Toho's rising superstar, Godzilla. But instead of being a dinosaur with the abilities of a dragon, Gamera is a turtle, as you can see. And also, unlike Godzilla, except for that one occasion, he can fly while taking the form of a UFO, although sometimes he can fly straight ahead. He goes by two titles, those being the Friend of All Children and Guardian of the Universe. As I mentioned at the start, he debuted in his own solo movie that was called Gamera, or Gamera the Invincible, which is of course the US title. He isn't owned by Toho, but Daiei Studios. And like Godzilla before him, Gamera would go through a phase where he started off as an antagonist, then became a protector of children, hence the title, and in the 90s he would go back to being a destructive force of nature once again. However, unlike Godzilla, who is still destructive to this very day, Gamera would now and then return to his kid-saving phase, as seen in 2006's Gamera the Brave, where he was named Toto. Anyway, again, like with Godzilla, Bandai also owned the license to make Gamera figures, and have been doing them since 1990. And while they've done many models of the character, from Showa to Reiwa, this figure is an updated version of the original 1990 Gamera model. That is, as the character was introduced all the way back in 1965, you know what I mean. Now, the last time Bandai did a Showa Gamera figure was probably sometime in either the late 90s or early 2000s, because when they make models of the fire-breathing turtle, they tend to go for the Heisei incarnation of the character, because not only does he look a lot more fierce, and I would really like to add the 1990 Gamera to the collection someday, but the 90s trilogy is considered to be one of the best non-Godzilla kaiju films in general. However, despite me being a sucker for the Showa Godzilla movies, you would have thought that I would be the same for Gamera, and while yes I do like the other monsters, the favourites being of course the characters Barugan and Guiron, I actually do like the Heisei trilogy a lot more. For starters, you don't have, as Brandon puts it, little Kenny's constantly yelling, "Gamera! Gamera!" over and over again. But nonetheless, I wanted to start off with the original incarnation from 1965's Gamera the Giant Monster, or Gamera the Invincible for the US title, as mentioned earlier. So for the model itself, as I said, this is an upgraded version of the older 1990 figure, and I believe this because of the way he is positioned. His arms are facing forward, but on the original they were stuck straight out, where here they're more realistically angled, as if he has just lifted himself off the ground after walking quadrupedally, i.e. walked on all fours, or perhaps he could maybe be getting ready to take flight. Now the colour scheme has often portrayed Gamera being dark green, but here he is almost light grey, well at least in the pictures, and because many of the promo images of him were in black and white, it's really hard to say what colour he actually was. So either the original suit, which is now most likely long gone now, was light grey, or he was always dark green. But if that's the case, then it's most likely that Bandai lit up his colour scheme to make him stand out from other Gamera models. The design of his shell is quite interesting too, because for the most part, and on first sight, it appears to be a normal turtle shell. However, looking at the back, we can see that he has point-like formations. Perhaps these are meant to be the equivalent to Godzilla's dorsal spines, and I honestly do prefer the shell of the Showa Gamera to the Heisei, because Heisei Gamera's shell does kinda look too similar to an ordinary turtle shell. He has unusually 5 toes, where most other monsters will commonly have up to 3 and 4, and in the case of the characters Gigan and some of the invertebrate kaiju, 1 to 2. His legs, arms and neck appear to be wrinkled as well, and gives the impression that he's been underwater for a long time. He has yet another feature that makes him stand out from Godzilla, and some of the kaiju in his franchise would also possess these too, and those would be the tusks. They seem to be clean, but look again and you'll be quick to notice that they appear to be weathered. When I first found out about Gamera, it was by complete accident, and it was during my research on the Godzilla franchise, as at the time I had no idea that the King of the Monsters had a rival competitor, film-wise. And this new monster that I discovered was based on a turtle of all animals. To which again, as I said at the start, makes a change, because if Gamera were a dinosaur, then he would be a complete Godzilla knockoff, even though he technically is. Now for size comparisons. Well, I currently don't have any large figures of the other characters from his series, so instead how about we look at some Godzilla monsters. First up, this is what he looks like with the original 1954 Gojira/Shodai Goji that was reviewed on the channel for the franchise's 70th anniversary last year. Links in the description below in case you wish to check the video out. This is what he looks like with the Xbox 1964 Godzilla/Warza Goji that was covered for the 100 review not too long ago. Again, links below. And here he is with some other Toho Kaiju, those being the 55 rated again Godzilla, as well as the original Anguirus, Gorosaurus, Giga 1972, and Varan. All have been covered, links are in the description below, or decide if you have access to watching on the TV, because YouTube is not only a website, but it's now a channel. Now sometimes you get access to the description on your TV. It's an on and off thing that they do. So what are my final thoughts on the Bandai Movie Monster series Gamera 1965? Well, despite the fact that I'm more of a Godzilla nerd, however I do like the friend of all children, aka the Guardian of the Universe. I know that the Showa Gamera movies get quite the bad rap, even though it too has fans, and the 90s trilogy of the Heisei period is far more superior, to which I do have to agree, even though I consider myself a Showa enthusiast, well for Godzilla at least. And while I do plan to order a 90s Gamera model someday, but I would really like to see Bandai make updated figures for those other Showa beasties, like Barugan, Virus, Guiron, Jiger, and Zigra. We already have Gauss, in case you all thought I'd forgotten him, and we have plenty from the 90s trilogy for the time being, so I would really like to see some dated models of those classic oldie goldies. And with their respective 60th anniversaries coming up in the next years, maybe that will happen. And it's not just for the Movie Monster series, but I would also like to see some updated Showa Gamera Gashapon figures, as they're long overdue as well. Anyway, even if you're more of a Godzilla fan, I would still recommend this model, because Daiei's hero does look great with Toho's radioactive superstar. Happy 60th birthday to Gamera, the Guardian of the Universe / friend of all children. Here's to another 60 years. This is Dragonzilla 1991 signing out. Take care, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.